my request would be that John be allowed to make a short statement first and then answer any questions.
No.
Great.
John, please start by introducing yourself.
How's it going, guys? John, and I don't know what statement I'm going to make.
Mr. Jones, excuse me.
What's to be sworn in?
Madam Court Reporter.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter known as the truth, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, we are here, and quite a really interesting situation. I think I'd rather you guys ask questions first.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that cool?
Would-
It's like,
would-
where do I start with what to say? So,
Let me just walk him through some questions. So let me start with the easy one. Have you ever knowingly taken Turinabol or anything that could have caused this positive test?
no, I have not.
And when you found out that you had tested positive, what was your reaction?
It was a terrible reaction. Just probably one of the more confusing things I've ever had to do, especially because of the process of trying to figure out how it all happened. You know, I was immediately asked to look at the people around me and see how this got in my body. So that was really tough. Like just spending the first few days of the situation, going back on supplements that I had taken, and just the people that had been around me, which the last month before the fight, it was just closest friends, family, and brothers, people who really care about me, who really want to see me succeed. Obviously, my success translates into their lives as well. So yeah, it was a really interesting situation. Just trying not to go through crazy conspiracies and look at people that I love as someone who could maybe put something in my food, or drink, or anything like that.
In your camp before the fight, did you feel like you were careful? Did you do things differently from what you had done in the past?
Super careful. Leading up to this last fight. You know, I'm very aware of my image and perception of me, and been really working really hard to change it. And you know, this fight definitely leading up to it. Thought I had the perfect situation and just people in my life that just take care of everything as far as a good nutritionist, and you know, I just hired a lot more people to help have an ultimate professional team, and I felt like it led to a knockout, you know, ultimately. So I was really proud of the team I built around me.
The supplements that you used in the lead up to this fight, who chose those?
So the people that chose them was my managers, one of our managers, Abraham Caldwell, who is very connected to the USADA situation, you know, the USADA program, and we basically we made sure that everything we took was in compliance with USADA.
And did you work with a nutritionist as well?
Yes, I work with a nutritionist who was my jiu-jitsu coach's wife, and she has I know she has some type of degrees, and she's really smart woman. And yeah, everything was really locked down.
And she checked all the supplements before you took them?
Yeah, her name's Michelle. Michelle and Abraham were working really closely to make sure there was nothing that could put me in that situation that I found myself in a while back with, you know, with the male enhancement stuff. Like, we were just making sure, you know, that situation really educated me a lot, that, you know, I had to be super careful about everybody that hands me a water bottle, anything that I eat, anything that I drink, who prepares my food. It taught me a lot, and we thought that we were, I knew that we were on just in a great place as a team.
There was a situation where you ended up switching the brands of supplements you used after your what turned out to be negative test on July 8th, right?
Oh,
So you were taking one set of supplements before July 8th,
right?
And then you switched that after July 8th.
Right. Yeah. So Michelle, she found these supplements that, and they're very generic stuff, like very basic stuff that just for general health for men, like fish oil and a basic protein and a basic like a glutamine for recovery and just real basic stuff. And she was really careful to make sure they were like third party tested and things like this. And even then, my management team was like, it has to be USADA approved. So we ended up scratching these things that were darn near organic to go for things that were strictly okay with USADA.
So there was a recommendation that all the supplements that you take should be from a list of third-party certified supplements.
Correct.
And so basically you took the same kind of supplements, you just switched to brands that were informed choice certified, right?
That clearly said USADA approved. Because there were some things that I remember the conversation was they were third party tested, but they still weren't USADA approved. So we went to things that were like amazing across the board.
And that switch happens in the 3 weeks before the positive test?
Yes.
Okay. And then you knew you were going to be tested before the fight, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And were
Been
you
an athlete my whole life.
Were you concerned at all about that test?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So, what have you done to try to figure out what caused the positive once you found out about it?
Well, we sent in all the supplements that we took leading up the 3 weeks before and the 3 weeks after. Both groups of supplements that we took, we've gotten them all tested. And I've just tried to just imagine any scenario of maybe someone who doesn't like me possibly doing something to a meal or a drink, which can drive a person crazy trying to think of that type of stuff. Because like I said, most people who are in my life, especially really close to a fight, are people who I consider very genuine, really want to see me do well. I've done the polygraph test, which was voluntary. And
Tell us about the polygraph test a little bit.
I went to get a polygraph test, and from my understanding, the guys who tested me were former FBI guys, so I would imagine they're a legit company. And I just had them ask me questions. Well, they asked me questions about any type of sports enhancement stuff. Have I ever done anything close to it? Have I ever seen it? Have I ever been around, anyone who does it that I know have done it, right? All these type of questions, and I answered every question honestly, and it came back that all my responses were honest, and that's something that I'd be willing to do again with a committee that's from California or whatever I have to do to try to prove to you guys that I have nothing to lie about today. What else have we done?
You met with USADA, right?
I met with USADA, the lawyers, and answered their questions, anything they wanted. I know that was something else that wasn't mandatory, but that was something that I wanted to do to let these guys know that I'm not trying to hide anything from them. And any questions that they want to ask me, then I'll take as long as it takes to answer all the questions. And that was what we did that day. I think we were like 2-hour meetings, something like that. Just me asking questions and just trying to prove that I have absolutely nothing to hide. It's just this situation is like really, really crappy because it's just like, I don't understand how any of this happened and how this got in my system. I'm trying to be super open and candid and make myself available to anyone, whether it's my team, their lawyers, you guys, that do farther testing, whatever I could do to just try to prove that none of this stuff makes sense to me. As much as it makes no sense to you guys being here, it's just like, imagine being me. I have no clue how this happened. No clue how it happened. I'm just trying to figure it out, just like everybody else.
What do you say in response to, in the brief of the executive officer, they go through past incidents you've had with DUIs, and, crashes, and fights, and they say that it's a demonstration of a pattern of poor judgment and reckless behavior that should be taken into account in determining the penalty here. What do you say to that?
Well, our past is something that none of us can escape, and I've definitely done a lot of things that were just flat out stupid throughout my early 20s. But I've also been the person who's had to deal with everything that I've ever done and deal with the punishments for everything, whether that's being incarcerated, whether that is, having, hundreds of thousands of dollars taken, whether that's probation, whether that's talking to, almost 100 different schools, talking to kids about the things I've done, make my mistake, to make things right. It's been a process, but I feel like I've definitely been putting forth so much effort to make things better and better because I understand that my life is an example to other people. And so looking yourself in the mirror, realizing that you are messing it up, I've really tried to do everything in my power to get my life together and ultimately show the world, show kids like, dude, you can make it through no matter how silly things are looking for you at a time. You can make it through this thing. And that's what I've been trying to do, is live and prove to people that you can get it together. And unfortunately, I've had some science stuff happen to me that has really reflected and kind of put me in this position of just being a lost cause or a screw up. And that's not who I am. I really, really, really want people to see that it is not too late to get it together. And that's what I've been trying to do. This situation with the male enhancement pill that just so happened to be tainted, in a way, it was a weird blessing in disguise because it was able to show, like, in that conclusion of the last situation, people were saying, well, negligence. He was negligent. He took a male enhancement pill that he didn't check with USADA. Outside of that, this was completely non-intentional. It's like, you can call me many things. You can call me a little bit of a party boy or a little bit of a wild guy or a knucklehead, but a cheater is something that I will never, ever admit to. Admit to is not the word I want to use. It's like that's something that I'll never say that I am because that's just not who I am. So, I mean, I'm not to babble on it. It's just I just really hope that my past situations don't really put me in a certain life. Because, like I said, none of us can accept the dumb stuff that we've done throughout our early 20s. And
do you feel like you're a different person than you were a couple years ago? And if so, can you describe
absolutely,
how?
absolutely, I feel like I'm a different person. I think the biggest thing was when, I guess the last really dumb thing I did was 3 years ago when I got in a hit-and-run car accident. The judge asked me to go around and talk to 87 schools in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And through that, it was healing for me because I had the opportunity to self-reflect and to realize the impact that I actually had. And it's like, how can you go around to, I think I ended up doing like 90 schools, I did a few extra. It's like, how could you go around and talk to all these kids and see kids cry and you get to the part of being close to tears? How could you go through all these conversations and know that you're still intentionally trying to do dumb stuff? It's like the moment I had the opportunity to talk to all those kids, I healed myself in a way because I realized the platform that I actually had. And to purposely do steroids like a week before a fight and ruin all those months of talking to all those kids, it would just be stupid. It's like, so I'm absolutely not the same person that I was 3 years ago when I got in a hit-and-run car accident. Like I said, since that car accident, it's been science that has been kicking me in the ass, if I can say that. And it's I'm not blaming anything on USADA. It's who thought a null enhancement pill would land you a year outside of work? It's like, and then who's stupid enough to do steroids not consistently leading up to a fight? It's like I've never done steroids, but any person with common sense would know not to do steroids one dose like a week before your fight. It makes no sense. And I think all you guys are here are really smart. Probably most of you guys in here are smarter than me. And it's like, you guys know that this makes no freaking sense. Why would I do steroids a week before my fight? It's really hurtful. That's all it really boils down to.
Do you feel like you can still be, or do you still want to be a role model
Absolutely, absolutely. I think there's a lot of people right now just waiting for this whole situation to play out to see. I don't know. I think somewhere along the line, the inspiration that I've kind of been associating with is just strength throughout shit. Just fucking keeping your head up high and being able to survive really bad situations.
Last question I have, what do you still hope to achieve in your sport?
Well, in the sport, there's a lot of things I really want to do. I want to get that belt away from Cormier, and you mean like in the actual cage or what?
Yeah. Well, what goals do you still have?
Goals that I still have. I just really want to take the asterisk away from the years and the miles and all the push-ups that I've actually put in. I've completely committed my life to a fighter, where some people could be themselves and they could be a lawyer on the side, or they could be, a dentist but still be themselves. Like, my whole life is what I do for a living, and it's terrible that there's an asterisk next to my career, because I started this when I was a little boy, and I just want to get rid of that. I just want to get rid of that asterisk and just show people, like, brother, I do not have to cheat to win fights. I mean, this is my heart and soul.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Mr. Ledeckis, across.
Mr. Jones, what assurances can you give the commission that this will never happen again?
Well, to be honest with you, it's like a really hard question to happen, because I didn't do this in the first place. And so it's like, do you believe in conspiracies? What do I have to do? Like, lock myself in a closet and literally just keep me and my wife in the same room to make sure I'm not tainted by anybody or anything? It's like, so that's how I answer that question. It's like, my assurance was it was a promise I made to the people and the kids of Albuquerque that I'd get my life together and I'd be more of a living example. And to like I said, take a sex pill that you're planning on having your intimate private life, resort to estrogen blockers, a year suspension. It was like, what in the world is going on? And then to knock out Daniel Cormier, and such a proud moment to have all these people that are so proud look at me like, what in the world's going on? It's like, John, get it together. It's like, dude, I do have it together. It just don't seem like, because my freaking luck has been terrible when it comes to my relationship with USADA. So how can I assure it? I don't want to eat my words, because I don't know how this happened in the first place.
Did you receive any pay-per-view money as a result of the Cormier fight?
Yes.
Was that 7 figures or around that area, or higher?
But there's still things coming in, so it's hard to say.
No further questions.
Questions from the commissioners? I'd like to begin. Commissioner Shanakidis, I know you have questions.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Jones.
Go on, man.
I'd like to ask you some questions, if that's okay with you. I'd like to preface this with, if I ask you any questions that are confusing or are not understandable, just let me know. I'm not trying to trick you, and I'll try to rephrase it, okay?
Okay.
And I'm also not trying to upset you or embarrass you, but we have a job to do here, so we're just trying to get to the bottom as best as we can.
I've done some pretty embarrassing things, so.
Okay, so let's start with the most obvious, the sex enhancement supplements. In 2016, you popped for 2 prohibited substances. And during a lot of the interviews, you told the media that you had experience with Viagra, Cialis, and the tadalafil that you were given by one of your teammates, right?
I've had quite a bit of experience with Cialis and Viagra over the years, but this last thing was
first time.
It was the first time, yeah.
So, in 2017, let's say between January and July of 2017, had you taken any sex enhancement supplements?
In 2007.
So last year, first half of last year, maybe put it that way, that you can remember.
Not that I know of.
No.
Well, since the I'm not sure what this question. I guess since the original situation that we had with the male enhancement, you know, I was told that, you know, if you ever feel the need, then getting an actual prescription to like a Cialis would be the best idea, and to never ever take anything. That's
So,
not.
other than prescription, you have not had any experience since let's say, June
No.
of 2016, nothing over the counter, no supplements, nothing like that?
No, no. Since this last situation, no. I realized that negligence could get you in trouble, and you know, originally I thought it was all about with USADA. I thought it was about performance enhancers. You know what I mean? So now I know for a fact not to take anything that's not prescribed by a doctor or approved by USADA. Both.
Okay. So in all of 2017, let's say last year, nothing over the counter, no supplements, nothing other than prescription.
Yes. I think so.
In terms of male sex enhancement.
Oh yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about this. Out of competition, June 16th, 2016 test, the one where you pop for the 2 prohibited substances. This was right before UFC 200, where you were supposed to fight Daniel Cormier, right?
Yes. I'm terrible with dates. I'm really bad with dates.
Well,
You don't mind.
2016. It's the one where you pop for the 2.
Right.
Okay. So at the time that you were tested, you also filled out the standard declaration of use form, the one where you are supposed to list any substances or supplements or medications. You remember that?
Yes.
Actually, every time that USADA tests you, you have to fill out one of those forms,
Yes.
right? That time when they tested you in 2016, that was like the 6th time they tested you, right? Something like that.
Okay.
And every single time you fill out the form, and at the bottom it says that you declare that this is truthful and complete, right?
Yes.
Okay. And on that occasion, when you filled that out, you actually didn't write, you wrote down that you hadn't taken any supplements, correct?
Yes.
But actually, you had, you just didn't put them in, right?
Yes.
And it was the tadalafil, and also there was a T-animal, something like that, another supplement that you take, but you didn't put them in. Do you remember that?
I would imagine what you're saying is true. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because actually, in April of that year, you were also tested by USADA, but in that declaration of use, you put in like 8 supplements. You remember that?
No, I don't. But if that was what was put in, then that was probably, if 8 supplements were listed, it was probably my manager being there with me physically at the time that just filled out the paperwork.
Well, at least certainly you learned after this incident with the tadalafil that you really need to put everything in.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So in 2017, in July 28th, the day before your fight, UFC 214 with Cormier, you were also given a declaration of use, right, to fill out. And you filled out with, I think, 7 supplements. You remember that? And you signed at the bottom, this is truthful, this is complete with all the supplements, right?
Okay.
But actually, after you popped for Turinabol, another 10 supplements were sent to the Smyrna lab for testing that were not listed
All
on
10
this
weren't listed?
declaration of use. You know that, right?
You're saying there were 10 supplements that I never listed?
Correct.
Probably like fish oil and protein.
And Endura, and Betalite, and Omegagenics,
Very healthy
and
things that
Vegilite,
people should
and
take.
glutamine, 10 supplements.
Anything though? Okay. I was just saying, like, I'm sure everything that you just read off were very healthy things that men who aren't even athletes could and should probably take.
But they're supplements that
Yes, ma'am.
you know should be listed. Okay. So you just said that the last stupid thing that you did, or dumb thing that you did, I'm sorry, for the words I used, was 3 years ago, and that's the hit and run, right? That was in New Mexico, 2015. It was a car accident where you left the scene and there was a woman who was pregnant, she was left injured, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you pled to a felony fleeing the scene of an accident, something like that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you were put on probation after that, and you had to serve your time on probation, correct?
Yeah, there was a lot of penalties I had to go through for that, but yes.
But at least that was one.
That was one of them, yes.
And as part
Huge
of
lawsuit.
your probation, there were conditions, like if you got citations or if you did something wrong, you had to report. I mean, there were lots of conditions, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
While you were on probation, you were actually cited like 5 times, including for drag racing, were you not?
It was all the same scenario, and what I learned that day is that if you rev your engine at a red light, the moment that the light turns green, you're automatically legally drag racing. So he cited me for drag racing, but not speeding. He gave me one for having a vanity over my license plate and a whole bunch of
But sorry,
crazy things.
you had
Then that guy came out,
you had 5 citations that you actually failed to report,
and
right?
then in one sitting.
Right.
For revving my engine, he ended up giving me 5 citations.
Okay, but you did not report that as you were supposed to, and then you were arrested for a violation of your probation.
No, ma'am. I didn't get arrested for violating. I got arrested because I had an interaction with a law enforcement agent. It wasn't that I didn't report anything. I literally was like getting arrested the next day.
You got additional community service for that, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am. Which I did more than what was given to me. Just out of good faith, and because I found the negative talking to kids.
In connection with the testing for this event in 2017, with the positive testing, you were given a letter by USADA, right? Advising you of the possibility of their intent for suspension, right? The
Yes.
possibility of what they could possibly do following
Yes.
a hearing, right?
Yes.
And the possible period of ineligibility that they could give you is something like 4 years, with another additional period for aggravating circumstances. 6 years, including aggravating circumstances like truthfulness, things like that, correct?
Yes.
You just told us that after the incident with the sex enhancement supplement or medication, they said you were negligent, but you were not a cheater, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, they actually said that your degree of fault was actually reckless. Do you remember that?
It was reckless. in this mental enhancement thing,
Yes.
if that's what it says, reckless and negligent.
And that you're at a very high degree of fault because, in fact, he did not seem to care about your teammate where he got the tablet, but only what it did for him in terms of increasing his sexual pleasure. Do you remember this?
I'm sorry, can you tell me what paragraph I'm trying to
It
follow?
would be at page 21, and the reckless reference is at page 27.
So when USADA came into my life, I was on a suspension still, dealing with my hit-and-run car accident. At no point did I ever meet anyone with USADA. I never went to any of the seminars. I didn't know how great of an agency USADA was. I know that I've been an athlete my whole life and that I've taken mental enhancement pills several times throughout my life. And I know that I've never failed a drug test for anything illegal. One of my favorite quotes by Dan Gable is, "When I know a man is taking steroids, I know that I can beat him because he doesn't have the work ethic that it takes to be at a certain point." And so, throughout my whole entire MMA career, I've always been an advocate, like going out of my way to talk about being totally against enhancement. I'm obviously not against that. Being totally against performance-enhancing drugs. Totally against it. I've probably spoken about it more than any other champion in UFC history. Being totally against it. So, to get back to the mental enhancement stuff, I had never met anybody from USADA. I never knew that this could even be possible, like an estrogen blocker through a mental enhancement pill. So when I took the pill without asking too many questions, like I said, I had never failed a drug test before, ever. And I know I've never done anything questionable before when it comes to performance enhancing and stuff like that. So I took it, and I thank God that the people said that all science shows that this kid was not trying to do anything outside of have a good time with his wife. So it's like...
Okay, Mr. Jones, let me ask you. In 2015, USADA became the independent anti-doping administrator for UFC. You know that,
Yes.
right? So you became part of the registered testing pool for USADA.
Yes.
And for UFC and USADA, right?
Yes.
And as part of this RTP, you were required to complete online educational classes, right?
I guess so. I'm going to be honest with you, I never did that.
Seriously? Because in 2015, you certified that you did. In 2016, you certified that you did. So now you're saying that you actually didn't?
Correct.
I see.
I had my management do it for me.
Okay.
I'm just here to be super open and honest with you guys.
Okay, so you never did any of these tutorials?
No.
So when you certified that you understood the tutorials, that you completed the tutorials, you lied?
No, I didn't lie. What I have been doing throughout my whole career is just having my management team go over contracts for me and, approve of it themselves. And I've had them sign things on my behalf several times throughout my career.
Well, you knew that you were supposed to do these anti-doping tutorials.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
But you didn't do them. Now you're saying you didn't do them.
Ma'am, to be 1,000% honest with you, my management team and I, we know that we've never come close to even considering any type of cheating options. So we never thought that them signing my signature would be an issue because it's just not in my heart to cheat.
I understand that, but I'm asking you about these tutorials.
Yes, ma'am, I did not sign it myself.
You did not do them. You do understand, though, that these educational tutorials are supposed to teach you about personal responsibility in taking anything, not just substances with anabolic steroids, but any substances that may contain contaminants.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? And then you have personal responsibility for taking anything and ingesting it. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's talk about this polygraph that you took on December 7th, 2017. They asked you a total of 4 questions, right?
I thought it
4
was a
questions.
lot. If that's what it says, I'm sure you're correct, yes, ma'am.
And before you were asked those 4 questions, you were told ahead of time the subject of the 4 questions.
No, not really. No.
So when the report says that you were told the subject, the report is not telling you the truth?
I was pretty much just briefed on the fact that they're going to ask me a lot of questions about a lot of different things to determine my honesty level. Like they started off asking me really simple questions, like are you an athlete, stuff like that, just to get a reading. So they actually asked me a lot more than 4 questions. And if only 4 are showing up, I guess that's the 4 questions that they actually cared about. But they asked me, it took well over an hour to complete the process. There was a lot of questions asked about my personal life, about stealing, about all types of stuff, to establish that the tests do affect women. Like questions like, are you 30 years old? Are you African American? Are you this? Are you that? Like very basic questions. It's just to establish if it actually works. And then once they establish that it works, they ask me several questions. Some being about drugs, some being about street drugs, all types of questions. So there are way more than 4 questions. Yeah.
So when the report actually says that they discussed what they were going to ask you before they asked you, that's not actually true? Or is it true? Or do you remember?
I'm sorry, where are we reading from?
I don't know if you have.
I have
Well,
it
you must
in
have
front
the
of me.
report because you put it in the
Yeah, it's
evidence.
exhibit Q.
So pre-interview, and then the interview, and then the 4 questions that they list.
Right,
as
I'm just looking because in the interview phase it says the substances were discussed during the pre-testing examination to be oral turnabol, dihydrochloromethyl testosterone alcohol, so that he would know.
That's what I'm asking
Right.
about. So they actually told you there were, and then if you look at the relevant questions, there were 4 questions that were that they asked you about, that they asked you
Those are the 4 relevant questions.
Yeah, because they asked me, it was hour.
on the actual polygraph. There were 4 questions.
I was hooked up to that polygraph for well over an hour. They asked me so many more than 4 questions, man.
Well, there were pre-testing interview, and then there was a polygraph.
To me, I've never been through any of that. It was all the same. They were asking me questions with a lie detector on me to get the true, whether it's true or false.
Let's talk about your previous findings. In connection with your previous with the accident that you had, the 2015 accident, were you fined by UFC?
Pretty sure I had with that.
Do you remember how much that was?
I don't, but I know I had to pay fine.
Does $50,000 sound about right? I mean, $25,000, I'm sorry, sound about right? 2015.
Was it 50?
25.
I thought it was
2014, it was 50, in 2015, it was 25,000. Does that sound
okay, I
about
thought
right?
you were talking about 14.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that sound about right?
I would imagine everything you have is factual, so I'll say yes.
Are there any other fines from either USADA or UFC that you recall?
Well, I signed a disclosure agreement with the woman that was in that car accident to never discuss the amount,
Okay.
but it
You don't
was
want
huge.
not from private parties. I'm just talking about UFC and USADA. or any commission?
I don't know, honestly. With opening strict and maybe the 25,000 and just legal fees that I have to go through, stuff like that.
So far as I know, those are the only.
The 14 and 15.
I think that's. By the way, UFC gave you a Bentley, didn't they?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And
It was
you wrapped that one around like a utility pole at some point, right?
that goes into the DWI that I got a long time ago. Like I said, super young back then, doing wild things.
That was.
It wasn't given to me. It was a payment for an agreement we made.
That was in 2010. 2010? The accident?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think I have anything else right now.
Come back. Before we get to the vote, sir, questions down on this end?
Excuse me?
No questions, Mr. Jones?
No, my question is, I don't want to be, I'm John Ryerson, and I've been on the commission about 10 years. And I think I'm older than everybody here. But
It's a close race, John.
I'm sorry. I'm not a Stephen A. Smith, and maybe some of you guys don't know who he is. But he's a reporter. And some of the questions you're asking, number one, I didn't bring my hearing aid, so I can't hear them anyway. And the commissioner, she asked some good questions. Some I didn't hear, some I don't know. But I say this, my perspective. I read this thing backwards, period. And I want to say this, that I understand how good you are, good fighter, all that, but it seems to me young people, like I was young once, make a lot of mistakes, a lot of mistakes. In fact, you don't mature to me until you're 40, 40-some odd, period. And you're coming before us with all of these different things, and you don't do this, you don't do that. And we, as a commission, we can't excuse all that, except say that you were young and hope that you want to be an example for young people that's going to come beside you. This is why I said about Stephen A. Smith. Some of you probably never heard of him. But he's an advocate, especially for African American athletes, who are actually the spokesman for many people, today, in today's world. I remember when football players, you open the Ebony magazine and it showed that there was one or two. But your young people coming along, you guys don't realize that you're an example, and you have to stay in this example. And my opinion, and I don't want to take it too long, is that you guys make a lot of money, you do a lot of different things, but when you're wrong, you're wrong. And you should be fined whatever this is. Because somebody come behind you who makes $10,000 and gets fined by his commission or anybody else for $1,000, that's a lot of money. But when you make a lot of money, you should be expected to stand up, bite the bullet, and say, yeah, I was wrong. And that's how my opinion of it. And you heard me when I'm bringing up about Stephen A. Smith and about this and that and the other. I've been in this thing for a long time, not just in boxing, but in the political world and everything else. And the point is, when you're wrong, you're wrong. And you should take the consequences. It's fine to get attorneys, and I love attorneys. Some people think I don't, but I do. They're all right. they're gonna look out for you, but they're also looking out for themselves. And you have to remember that. When you make a mistake, stand up to it.
Yes, sir.
I don't mean to be a soapbox commissioner, chairman, but I have to say what I
Sir.
feel.
Sure. Thank you.
Am I allowed to respond to?
You want
Sir.
a response to your statement, Commissioner Franz? He's asking if he could respond.
Yes, you can.
Sir, I feel,
Because
yes, sir.
I didn't bring my hearing aids this morning.
I'm on you. I sit here before you and I tell you that I have 1000% in every situation that I've ever done, paid for the dumb things that I've done. And I often handle it with grace, and I try not to show how much it has affected me, the consequences of my actions, but I have always had a consequence for my actions. Oftentimes people think, oh, John, you're a celebrity, so you get breaks and you get, you know, you get this some type of weird favoritism. But if you actually have paid attention closely to everything that I've ever done, in almost zero circumstances have I got any type of leniency. Any type of leniency. So I've always been more than willing to step up as a father, as a man, to the wrong things that I've done. And that's why I'm here today, to step up to the wrong things that I've done. And honestly, I put it on everything that is dear to me, everything that's dear to my soul, that I did not do steroids. And in this situation, I swear to my Heavenly Father that I'm not wrong. So when you say you're wrong, I 100% agree. I've always handled my punishments head on. And in this situation, I am not wrong. I swear to anything. I swear to everything that's dear to me, which is my Heavenly Father, that I am not wrong in this situation.
Dr. Lee? Commissioner Sauer?
No.
Vice Chair?
I think, I think maybe two questions. Do you have an opinion on the prevalence of the use of steroids in your sport?
What do you, like how big it is? I feel like I know scenarios of people who's done steroids, but they're very public cases where, you know, if you're a fellow UFC fighter, everyone knows the guys who have been guilty of doing steroids. But to talk about the actual percentage of guys who do it, honestly, I can't give much of a suggestion because, like I said earlier, out of all the champions in UFC history, and if someone willing to do a report on it, I can guarantee you no one has been more of an advocate against being against performance-enhancing drugs. So if you are doing steroids, I wouldn't be the guy to talk to about it. I'm known, my reputation is known, especially on my team, as the guy who's working the hardest. And if your image is a guy who's a hard worker, and if you're a steroid coward, I'll call you, I'm not the guy to talk to about doing steroids.
Okay, but you agree that it's important that we do all we can to stop the use of steroids? And
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. And that's like me being here. I'm not sitting here saying that USADA's lying on me. And what I am saying is that I'm in a really crappy situation because I'm faced with the fact that I started wrestling when I was about 11 years old, and it's led me to college, and it led me to state champions in high school, and all types of state championships throughout high school, and national championships in college, and become the youngest UFC champion in sports history, and now steroids out of nowhere. Like, don't you guys think achieving all those things, if I was a steroid guy through all these great achievements, I would have been caught a long time ago. It's like I understand that you guys had to clean up the sport, but I think it'd be super important to throw people and lock them away, throw the keys away to people who are caught with situations that are undisputable. Like this, and in my situation, it's like, why would he do steroids 1 week before his fight? This kid's been winning since day one. Why would he do steroids? So if you guys are gonna clean up the sport, clean it in a situation, and I'm not telling you guys what to do, obviously you guys are in charge and this is really out of my hands. But clean it in situations where it's like, dude, this kid is so guilty is like my situation. It's like, dude, you hit someone with your car, paid damn near $1 million in a lawsuit, and it's like I'm getting judged for all the stupid shit I've done a long time ago. In this scenario, if we were to ignore all the dumb things that I've done in the past, it's just like, it almost makes you feel like, dude, if you have a troubled past, you have no rights for no matter what evidence you come up with or can't come up with. It's just, you're just guilty.
Okay, thank you, that's a good answer. I'd like to clarify when Commissioner Shenarkides was asking you, is it your testimony today that when you took the tutorials by WADA about what was improper or what could get you in trouble in the testing in September 2015, October 2015, December 2015, that you do not recall doing those tutorials, or that you affirmatively did not take them?
I didn't take them.
Okay, and did you state that your signature was forged by your management on those certifications?
Yes.
Last question. You said you were working hard to change you have been working hard to change your image. Can you give some more examples? You mentioned speaking to the kids at the school.
Well, yeah, I definitely spoke to a lot of kids at the schools, in situations where it was just so life-changing and so amazing to me. Literally having kids talk to me about molestation, just all types of stuff that was none of my business, but at that moment I got to recognize my platform, and that especially kids of Albuquerque needs a positive thing. You know, a lot of the fighters that's come out of Albuquerque have, I don't know, some of them didn't really give kids that much to, especially the biggest names in boxing, and I don't want to mention anyone to be disrespectful. I just want to be a champion in Albuquerque for the kids of Albuquerque that no one's ever seen. I know that my light is super important to these people. My survival is super important to not only kids in Albuquerque, but to a lot of my fans.
Can you give me specific examples of things you've been doing to work on your image and to show that you're a different person than when you were younger and made these?
Really just changing up my life choices, changing up the people that I'm surrounded by, changing up the people that I surround myself, and just making a conscious effort to just be a better dude.
Can you give me some examples?
Well, I've lost a lot of friends, and I think that was the biggest thing. Like, you know, Michael Jackson always says you got to look at the man in the mirror, right, and start with yourself before you can really make an impact on others. And I think the biggest thing that I've done to change is just to work on myself and to not quit through all this stuff, and just work on being a better dude.
Okay, but give me some examples. These are generalisms. This might help you.
Okay. Examples that things I've done to
better yourself.
To better myself. Man, it's hard to explain because, I mean, outside of doing drunk mistakes, I don't really look at myself as being this evil guy that's walking around hurting innocent people, and I've just matured a lot. And unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to really show it because of my inactivity. But I think I represent a positive message, and that's something that I'm still continuing. And like I said, I guess the biggest thing that I've done to better myself is mainly in my personal life, because you know, there's not really much that people could say about me in the ring. It's been doing stupid stuff like drinking and driving, something I haven't done. I hired a full-time like a driver, and to make sure that in the vehicle accidents like a hit and run or a DWI could never happen again. Outside of my 2 driving incidents, I mean, there's really nothing that anyone can point at to just say, you know, this kid is a terrible human being. You know, the day I decided to run from that car accident I got into was one of the worst. It was probably the single worst decision I've ever made. But I can't really look myself in the mirror and say, John, you're just a disgusting human being. Have I done some stupid stuff with alcohol? Being a 20-year-old drunk idiot? Yeah. And I guess the biggest thing I always knew I had to do was just control my personal life. And so, like I said, you know, losing a lot of friends who I knew could lead me down the wrong path, that was a huge step. And just limiting any possibility of me doing something stupid behind the wheel ever again, by knowing that if I decide to go out with any guy friends, that I would never be the guy who's drinking and driving again. I realized how irresponsible and stupid that was, and how much money it's cost me, and how much respect I've lost through it all.
Thank you.
Okay.
There are any no more questions?
I have one question. You have a follow-up? Because I want to, go ahead, please make your.
The community service that you did with the children, it was October 2015, right around there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So I hope you will see, recognize, and acknowledge that we gave you as much time as perhaps you were able to repeat yourself again and again, answer questions to make your case. Do you feel like you have made your case, John?
John,
Yes, sir.
could I just add,
Sure, please.
before you shut it down? I sort of feel like I'm stuck between being on a parole board or on one of those panels for the primetime television shows where you judge somebody playing a ukulele. I sit here, and you obviously, as you have conceded, have conducted a fairly deplorable a number of things in your life. And, you just sit here and say, well, there's been a pattern in your life that you pledged to correct and reverse. But I sit here and say that I hear good things from you, though I'm not inclined to vote in favor of anybody named Duke. And I just think that if we vote against you, in effect, we will pretty much set you adrift in terms of your career and whatever impact that may have on your future. On the other hand, it is Advent, and I think we all try to find in this period things that we may be able to do which may somehow make things better, either individually or hopefully largely. If we vote against you, I think the game's over. If we believe what you tell us, and you live as you tell us you will, then you have a chance to continue and have an opportunity for a better life. This is it's a very difficult place to be, and I don't think we as a commission encounter these circumstances with regularity, and I'm quite thankful that's the case. But my inclination is, after going through this, I hope what you're telling us is true.
Yes, sir. And just last thing, like I said, that hit and run car accident was 3 years ago, and I promise you guys, I have really, 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 really tried to just get it all back.
You still drink alcohol?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's my turn.
Sir.
Anybody done? Thank you. Yeah, we're going to get into Mr. Foster and discuss with him his recommendation in a second. But you were asked again and again here about making changes based on the things that keep happening to you. I haven't heard any real changes. Still drink alcohol. Still admitting that you're doing things that are very questionable. And I think you must realize that you have judgment issues. Do you? Because let me tell you something, sir. You said you might not be as smart as a lot of people in the room. I don't agree with that. You seem to be a very intelligent person to me, very aware. You're also a great athlete, and I'm a fan of yours. I was at that fight, close by here. But you have judgment issues. Have you considered changing your management? I mean,
Actually, I have considered that several times. No, I'm joking. I think I could have some slight judgment issues, but I think I've made a lot of the necessary steps to check myself. Like I said, to take a male enhancement pill was. I got you. I got you.
So hang in there with me.
Sorry.
I don't mean to be cutting you off, but I want to keep going over the same ground. There are judgment issues, there are things that you could consider, perhaps should consider. It's really up to you. But we are put in a position here to make a decision, which is to either support or change our executive officer, who, if you haven't figured out by now, is the last place he wants to be. Former MMA fighter. Okay? Last place he wants to be, having to make these recommendations. That I can assure you and anyone else who is wondering about that. And again, we'll get to him in a second, Mr. Foster. Mr. Jones, you keep talking about how you're older. You were 29 last year.
Yes, sir.
You're not older. We're older. Okay? So I'm not going to give you that one. It's not our burden that I disagree with my friend, respected friend, if I understood him correctly, Commissioner Souter. We're not here to end your career. We're to make a decision based on a recommendation, a decision that you put us in. You put us in this situation. You understand that, correct? Yes or no? I mean,
yes.
Test positive.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
You also took and were paid the money, a lot of money, for that fight that was declared no contest, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have issues with that, but I don't get to decide that. Two final things. Maybe one. No, it is two. Do you consider a doped athlete, intent or non-intent doesn't matter, a danger to his or her opponent in the octagon?
Absolutely.
So you can see what the effects of a doped athlete, a testing positive athlete has in the octagon. Because this has been all about you, hasn't it, this hearing?
Yes, sir.
See, but for us, it's not all about you. It's about your opponents and all the other athletes out there. We haven't talked about that at all tonight, and I'm not happy about that as well. But again, I don't get to decide everything. You understand the impact this has on the actions that you've taken on your opponents?
Could I answer that without saying yes?
That's a question.
Yes, sir. If I was sitting here knowing in my heart that I have been doing steroids or I ever did steroids, I would feel some weird guilt. I absolutely understand what steroids could do to someone else or do to your own health. And that's why I've sworn up and down and done meetings that I had to do and done polygraphs and all this type of stuff to tell you that I, of all people, absolutely understand what performance-enhancing drugs could do to someone. That's why I'm trying to swear with all sincerity that I would never do that.
Not just to you, but to your opponents and to your sport.
To your legacy and to, yeah, absolutely.
That's back to you, Mr. Jones, to your opponents and to your sport.
Yes, sir.
To MMA, the world of MMA.
That's why I would never do it. Okay. I hate the fact that Lance Armstrong is associated with steroids. You know what that does to cycling? I hate that Barry Bonds is associated with steroids. You know what that does to boxing? I understand that I'm kind of right now becoming as one of the pioneers of my sport, could be one of the originators of boxing, the way people look at, you know, some of the old greats, the Willie Peps and the Jack Johnsons and all that stuff. I understand how important.
I do understand, you are smart.
Yes, I do understand, and that's why I would not disrespect myself in MMA at its birth state by being a cheater.
But you're making my point for me if you understand the situation that we're in here. Okay?
Sir.
You have to understand, I hope that you do, and I think that
I do.
Which is good.
1,000%.
But it really does put us in that position. You realize that we're in the state of California, the regulatory agency, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that's clear. Okay, Mr. Walker, can we talk to the gentleman about the recommendation on to the next steps?
Absolutely. Andy, what is your recommendation? What should do on this?
would hope to cover, I would hope to
I
cover,
can't hear you.
I would hope to cover Mr. Foster's position in a closing argument. If we can go to the closing. And then,
That's fine.
and if I don't cover it, I'm sure Mr. Foster would follow up.
Very good.
We'd like to hear from Andy at some point. However you guys work this out, please. Where do you do this? Pay your clothes.
Commissioner, so let me preface my recommendation a little bit. Okay, I have a personal view and I have my professional view. Okay, my personal view is I believe him. And it's not just with what he said. I view it from common sense. We've heard from scientists and all this stuff. I'm looking at common sense. This makes no sense for him to take this drug on the test that he knows is coming. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Okay? Having said that, here we are. We're sitting here. Okay? There's nothing I can do about that. We're sitting here. My recommendation is $2,500 for 303, $2,500 for discredit to mixed martial arts, and $200,000, that's 40% of the purse from Business and Professions Codes 18843B. Now look, Howard Jacobs wrote something in his brief that I thought a lot about when he said, look, this 40% thing should be reserved for the most severe offenses, and I agree with that. Okay? I agree with that. Mr. Jones has been in front of USADA once. He's now with us here. But we're not talking about what he's done in the past. We're talking about 40%. And I had to ask myself when I was coming up with this, look, he made $500,000 from a bout. That's good. That's from a bout agreement. Okay? Mr. Jones also made a considerable amount of money from the pay-per-view sales that surrounded this fight. And I don't believe he would be able to do that without that state license. Okay? That's why I came up with that. So, then as far as the license goes, I want to be very clear that I do not believe we should end Mr. Jones's career today. Okay? But I do believe he should sit out for a while. Okay? He's already sit out a good while.
Okay, Jim?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to hear again exactly in layman's terms what the recommendation was. I heard that, and I would like to hear what the second is.
We have a motion.
What is?
We have a motion.
Spell it out. I'd like to hear it.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Why vote?
We have a motion and a second to take a vote on Mr. Foster's recommendation of revocation and the 40% fine plus the two $2,500 fines, correct?
Yes. Is that it?
Okay. So it's time to vote.
With the idea that this other group find out what they would give it back in life.
Absolutely. Mr. Jacobs
Okay.
said,
I can do plain English. I like plain English. This is fine for all you attorneys out there and all that, but I like plain English.
Yes, sir.
I'm a Harlem boy that only knows plain English, not all.
Don't let him fool you. He's the smartest guy. Okay. Yes. Want to discuss more? Okay. We have a second we can vote, or you can discuss more. You're looking to.
Yeah, it's on the floor. The motion on the floor. Now it's time to discuss it.
Because I think the other option is possible suspension, right? So we can revoke, we can suspend. Those are the two options, or we can do nothing. So, in my estimation, the reason for the revocation would be this. If we were to suspend, we could actually suspend for longer. The revocation would be for a year, according to our statutory scheme, correct? If we were to suspend, we could suspend for longer. But in my opinion, the problem is Mr. Jones has been suspended before. And under a suspension, he gets his license back automatically at the end of the suspension. With a revocation, there's actually a condition that he comes back to our commission and he show us evidence of rehabilitation, which he hasn't had to do before. So while the time might be shorter, we can say no for whatever period of time, that year, the next year, or whenever he applies. And I do think that the chairman is correct. Perhaps there is a team around him, perhaps there are people around him, I don't know, who are enabling Mr. Jones in a way that he shouldn't be enabled, because even after the 2015 accident, Mr. Jones went on to have people sign for him declarations that he took online classes that he should be taking himself. And it isn't just the intentional or not intentional, because under our scheme, it doesn't matter. It is a strict liability. It's in your system. It's in your system. And the reason is because you have to take personal responsibility. That's the reason. So I think it will be important for Mr. Jones to come and show evidence that he is doing something to show personal responsibility. And also, just maybe strategically, although USADA's letter says 4 to 6 years, well, certainly I believe they're going to give him more than one. I think maybe somewhere between 18 months and 2 years. That's just what I believe. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, although I tell my children I'm never wrong, but whatever. So if that's the case, I don't believe he will come back to us while the suspension is going on. But even if he does, we have the ability to say no. So
Okay, we have
There's a motion on the floor. There's a motion on the floor.
I think that we seem to be going back over the same stuff. Anybody else? We're going to have to call for the vote. Mr. Foster?
Chairman Carvelli.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Langford.
Aye.
Commissioner Fryerson. Aye. Commissioner Senior-Kivez.
Aye.
Commissioner Salmon.
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. Williams. Aye. 6-0, so recommendation passed.
Mr. Jones, I want to see you fighting as soon as possible. I hope you believe me, because I mean that.
I do believe.
I hope you're listening to some of the other things that I said to you and the other commissioners. Think about the people around you, some of the things that you're still doing. You're a unique, outstanding individual and athlete. We want to see you back in the cage as soon as possible. Come back to us.
Great.
Okay?
One more thing, Mr. Jones, you heard me talking about, I've been ill for a long time, so I'm home and I'm listening to a lot of TV. I really want you to look up who I was talking about, Stephen A. Smith.
I don't believe it.
I don't know if you know about him or whatever happened, but he's an advocate, especially for African American athletes who need some training, who need some understanding of who they are and who they impress. Because I have a grandson who doesn't even know what's going on or what happened in the past. And you need to be a role model. That's all I'm saying. Okay? Thank you.
We're going to adjourn for lunch. You want an hour? 45 minutes. We'll be back. Thank you all.
Sitting.